Hey there everybody, this is Killin' Cat, but you can call me Patrick, trust me, it's okay, everyone does. So fun story for you guys, I played this when it came out in 2002, not this one specifically, this is the remastered version, and boy does it look nice. I did manage to grab this when there was a huge inventory shortage on them, so I happenstance just saw a copy in Target when I was buying baby formula for my son. Thank goodness I like to window shop, it's not like these are common now. Oh wait, now they're everywhere. Jokes aside, I hope the scalpers suffer. As a fun story for you guys, I actually do still have my original version, but I only have the disc. I don't know why. I think it got lost somewhere along the way, the case and the manual, and now I only have the disc. As a kid, I didn't keep good track of my stuff, so. Anyways, how do I feel about Metroid Prime? Well, it's alright. Look, I've played every one of them, and even still I have my Gamecube disc, like I just said. Back in my day, this game had a bug involving the various suit and elevators. I think it was the various suit. Either way, the game would freeze and crash if you progressed faster than the developers expected in the original GameCube version. This game is good, but having played the later Prime games, I have to say coming back to this one is a bit underwhelming. Because I haven't played much of this since it came out, I think maybe only a handful of times. And I remembered it being so much more than it actually was. It is fun, it's a good game. Is it worth the 40 USD you can get it for on the Switch? Absolutely. Personally for me, I'm always going to prefer the original graphics. There's a charm to the lack of refined quality that's lost in the remaster. It's hard to think at this point, the original Metroid Prime is 21 years old this year. This is old enough to drink in the US. And the graphics do show that aging. Just the stylization of the original game looks good still. There's a lot of boomer shooters that are coming out that have this same kind of crunchy graphics, and I appreciate those way more than the remaster personally. And to point out, this isn't actually a remaster of the original game, it's a remaster of the Wii version. You can tell because the little ball can hop, in the original version it couldn't. Yeah, that's a huge improvement, and they don't really tell you about it. See, when the original GameCube version came out, it had a somewhat different story, a little bit more sloppily written, and that's because the development was rushed and lacking some gameplay elements that were introduced with the Wii version. Looking back, even though I do feel a little bit nostalgic, the GameCube version wasn't that robust. The changes made in the Wii version of the game were astounding, both for story and gameplay mechanics, and because of them, this game holds up way better than it could have if they just upgraded the GameCube version. Imagine if you didn't have the jump in Morph Ball form, or if the game still crashed if you progressed faster than the developers expected. Sure, you can know about this and prevent them in advance, or prevent that crash in advance, but you really shouldn't have to. Imagine a world where they carried over the first-person gameplay of the original GameCube. I don't think I want that. I mean, the option is there. The original had tank controls, and you couldn't aim up or down while moving, or so I recall at least. You had to lock on to things by hitting the L button as your primary form of aiming, and the camera didn't always work with you. It was kind of wonky, and in my experience, flopped around quite a bit. The camera still doesn't work with you in this version either sometimes, so adding the dual analog controls helped a lot. That being said, I do understand that dual analog controls for shooters back then wasn't quite the norm yet. A lot of games had them, but not all of them. Nonetheless, it's a hugely welcome change that makes the game way more accessible and fun, but it also makes the lock-on mechanic feel a tad dated if you can aim with how it works. It's just a tiny bit more clunky in this game. Thank goodness I can't aim though, praise be to lock-on. The collectathon elements in this entry of the Metroid Prime trilogy, and Metroid as a whole, actually aged poorly. I didn't feel the need to complete this game in the Prime series again, at least not 100% it. I did it twice as a kid, it wasn't too hard, but I simply couldn't bring myself to do that here in front of my wife or for you guys. It's weird because I 100% Metroid Prime 3 probably 7 times. Hey, if you take the 3 from Prime, and the 7 from my completion game number, you get 10. And hopefully, we get that many more Metroid entries before I die. It's not looking likely, though. Yeah, the completion system in this game does work different than in Prime 2 or Prime 3, but only somewhat. Essentially, right after you get a power-up, it will show you a bunch of possibilities of things to unlock, and it's likely related to the next power-up you'll get, or one of few power-ups down the line, except for the spider ball power-up, which you don't get right away, and it comes hours and hours later. Yes, I am going to mention this is the last 3D game that Actually, I think this is the last Metroid game that the Spider Ball appeared in. I haven't played them all, so don't quote me on that, but I feel like this might have been the last one. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. I like hearing that kind of interaction from you guys. As a better example, you see missile doors, then you get the Morph Ball, then you see the Spider Ball segments. The first two come right after each other, and then the Spider Ball comes hours and hours later. Another issue I have with this original entry in the Prime series is that it feels like it goes on for too long. It manages to have both too little and too much. Though I do get why it's like this, the later versions couldn't fix the rushed development cycle without adding a bunch more to the game, and that's just not very doable. This is also hugely noticeable because every entry in the Prime series after this one is significantly better in this element. I get why it was remastered, it was a complete necessity, but I hope the rest of the series gets this treatment, because they're pretty hard to get via normal means now, and Prime 2 has a lot of the shortcomings of first-person gameplay as Prime 1, unless you count that Wii port, which is a lot better. I've seen a lot of the reviewers say that you get used to these issues in the originals, and you do, it's just that they still suck even after you get used to them. Trust me, nostalgia vision is a hell of a drug. I go back to Pikmin every year because that's still one of my favorite games ever made, but when I look at it critically, it's not as good or as refined as Pikmin 2, or even further later down the line when they did new play controls, or Pikmin 3, etc. It just got better the more they did. The first entry in a new genre for an old series is always bumpy. And the first entry in a series is always bumpy. I did already mention the lore-friendly story rewrites, but I also want to say that so much of the game is still considered non-canon. A lot of the Phazon mines just aren't canon anymore, I don't believe, and some of the story after that. Yeah, that's a thing. Playing any of the Prime games might accidentally result in presuming canonicity of various elements, much like a player coming into Other M might think that it is canon. Now, most of the game is still canon, so it doesn't matter too much, but this still sucks a bit. Hey there, me and Post here. There's actually still a lot of contention around whether or not these games are canon, or a lot of the events if they are canon. And technically it was canonized at the end of the Metroid 2 remaster. However, there was an interview in 2010 with one of the creators of Metroid, and I think the current series director maybe, I don't remember off the top of my head, I'll put up a thing, in which he said that the Metroid Prime series was essentially non-canon. So that's a thing. That's an entirely different take on Samus to him. Of course, it's been 13 years since then, and the Metroid 2 remake, remaster thing, yeah, that borderline canonized this, so I guess take what you will? The story itself, though, is perfectly fine and very well paced. I do feel that the final battle with Samus's atypical nemesis Ridley comes on way too suddenly. I entirely forgot about him almost. I did do multiple playthroughs of this game back in the day when I was a kid, and every time I almost forgot about the boss fight with him because the following boss fight with the actual final boss is way more bombastic, but not fundamentally better. Looking at that crunch time they had, since I think most of the game was made within a 2-week period, yeah, I can give them the excuse and say that this game came out absolutely marvelously, and it's a complete miracle it hit the shelves at all. It is a really good game and an absolute marvel. You should play it, and you should admire it. At the end of the day, I feel this game matters a lot more to hardcore Metroid fans. But I grew up and was born in the brief era where there were pretty much no Metroid games for some years. Then later on went through my teen years with no Metroid games either, other than Other M. I don't have the attachment to these games or the fundamental nostalgia vision that's required to look at this game more fondly than it is. I don't have that rosy retrospection a lot of reviewers out there probably have. I have some attachment, and I do have a little bit of nostalgia, and they are very well made and fun, and this is definitely worth the price tag, more so when on sale. But a part of the joy of this is lost on me. In fact, most people I find seem to think very highly of this specifically with nostalgia goggles on. As nostalgic as I am for this time period, I found myself thinking more that this was a meh or above average rather than a huge hit like it was at the time. But it was huge. I would hear about this game everywhere for anyone that had a GameCube, though the Chozo artifacts don't really help with that at all, and I know everyone agrees with me on that one. I have heard that from everyone, even the people that review it with those hardcore nostalgia vision goggles on. But you know what? That's fine. That just means this game isn't near as much for me. Not near as much as when I was a kid, anyways. The massive improvements the series had as it progressed makes coming back to this entry in specific a bit of a challenge. I already gave it my recommendation because no matter if you beat this game already, you're going to have fun if you like Metroid or if you like first-person shooters. Once more, especially so in this remastered version. For me, personally, it comes down to the graphics looking too pretty for my taste, since almost everything looks different now, and I liked how it looked in the original, but the original also has a lot of very game-breaking things, so I guess the Wii version's a comfortable middle ground. Except I don't have the Wii version anymore. There's too much shading and too much dynamic lighting. I wish there was an option in the game where you could see the older graphics or the newer ones like the new Halo game did, or at least have it as an option in the main menu. Though that might be asking a bit much of the Switch as a console, or maybe it's asking much of the design team at Retro. I know it is possible, I just don't know the limitations for the console or the company in allowing such a thing to happen. It would be so cool to have, though. I digress, that's about the end of it. Please don't burn me at the stake for this. I actually like the game a lot, but it's irrefutable that the later games in the Prime series improved a lot more as the series went on. And that's a good thing. Every game got better. And then at the end of the day, maybe this game is more made for you than it is for me. And that's okay. I'm clarifying this so hard because recently, whenever I talk about a big Nintendo title in front of big Nintendo fans, of which I am, is a huge no-go. I mean, when I said Breath of the Wild isn't perfect, or isn't a 10 out of 10, and I gave it a 7 to an 8 out of 10, I had toxic fans climb out of the woodworks to get me. I also had one fan deny that there was any toxicity while also being one of those toxic fans, and it kind of puts me on edge about reviewing products, but I like doing it. I just don't want to be attacked for it. I had one guy harass me over it. I mean, multiple people, but this guy tried to slide into my DMs, and I just I turned that off and just deleted it because I wasn't going to deal with that. It might seem a bit much, but this actually worsened the overall experience for me because when I made criticisms and pointed out flaws and didn't call it a foolproof masterpiece immediately, or at least didn't have as much fun with it as someone else, I got a lot of harassment over it, and it worsened my experience with Breath of the Wild and even now Tears of the Kingdom, because I would get hours and hours and hours and hours of notifications from people telling me I was wrong for feeling this way and that they're perfectly unique games that no other game is like, and that drove me wild. Now, the original Metroid Prime was a good game and it's fun, and the remaster was entirely needed. It's just not that it's perfect, and that this is a fundamentally opinionated medium. I mean, there are people who unironically enjoy Sonic 06, even though the game is so glaringly broken. I know I'm breaking off on a tangent here at the end of the video again, but that's because I'm also preparing to review Tears of the Kingdom, and I have recorded so much footage of it for this. I've actually already been warned after the fact that I could be harassed over this, or I could be assaulted for this. That is insane to me. To each their own. Just don't hurt me for not agreeing that the game you think is perfect, or a 10 out of 10, or a complete masterpiece with nothing else like it. It's kind of a problem when you can't be critical of a thing without being harassed by the fans of it en masse. And just because I'm critical of it doesn't mean I have to immediately go out there and make a better product like I see a lot of arguments make, or that I hate sequels, or anything like that. I don't know what to tell you guys. Whoever's going to be mad at me in the comments, I know there's going to be people making jokes about it now, but that's fine. I don't mind jokes. I don't mind memes about it. I just wish we could go back to a time where you could be critical of these things without massive amounts of harassment, which unfortunately is a thing that happens to a lot of people now, and it's not okay. I guess now that I'm at the end, I give the actual outro. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like my stuff, make sure to let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Remember that subscribing just to dislike my videos is also beneficial to the YouTube algorithm, and it does help me. Check my Patreon and Ko-fi to support me monetarily, and every penny is appreciated. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time for more. And remember, be nice to each other. Not everyone's gonna agree with you. Not in a medium that is fundamentally opinionated, with some exception.